Delighted to welcome both Richard Sams and Tom Noble from MOHARA to our class. Richard and Tom are going to talk about two different things. Richard will initially focus on the importance of validating your idea and their experience of having worked with hundreds of startups. And then Tom will talk about how you go about creating prototypes, and he will specifically look at no-code platforms. So without further ado, I'd like to pass the mic on to Richard. Richard, it's all yours. Thank you for joining.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Well, good morning, everybody, and thanks for taking the time to listen to Tom and I today. We've really enjoyed kind of putting this presentation together. And as Rama said, I'm going to be kicking off with a little bit of background to why we're here. Give you some insight into some of the validation processes that we really value, that we really think are some of the best out there. And I'm actually focusing on one particular type of process. And then once I've kind of walked us through that, Tom's going to take over and lead us through some more practical examples of how we can actually pilot. This is very much your session though. So if you've got any questions or you want to interject at any time, please feel free, come off mic and stop us. If you've got any questions that you want to tackle afterwards, obviously feel free to pop them in the chat as well, and we'll get there, because I do want this to be, very much a session that is useful for you all, because, we've worked with many founders out of MBA programs and many founders who didn't go through them, and everybody's journey starts in a unique way. And I think, this information that we hopefully give you will be valid, but everybody's got their own nuances to it. So please feel free to stop us at any point. Okay, so let's get on. So this is the contents for the first piece. I am going to rattle through this relatively quickly. I have designed this as a leave behind doc, so this can be shared. So a lot of what I'm talking to here, because I want to give Tom as much time as possible, because that's, I think, probably the really key part of what we're talking about. So it's an introduction to us both, why we're here, what the background of this validation approach is, a breakdown to how we approach it with building wait lists, a master plan for how you can start to present what you're looking to build for investors, whether that's friends and family or whether that's actually angels, a link to the resources where a lot of this content has been pulled from, and then over to Tom for his pilot piece. Okay. So just introduction. So as Ramesh said, so I co-founded and I'm CEO of a company called MOHARA, and we work with non-technical founders to build startups, essentially. So I've been in this game for 12 years, started the business in 2011. At the same time, Ben was graduating from INSEAD. So it's kind of, Ben was actually my first customer, first client, which is how we came to be friends. But across those 12 years, I've probably built or worked with over 100 startups, and seen everything that's good, everything that's bad, and I've learned a lot along the way. MOHARA's model is to invest in startups as well, and we've done over 30 investments in the past 6 years. So we've got a lot of experience of working across that, and I thoroughly enjoy the startup space and really enjoy the entrepreneurial journey, and any way that we can kind of pay it forward and help where we can, we like to. Tom, do you want to give a little bit of rundown on yourself?
Yeah, so hello, I'm Tom. Thanks for having us here today. So I'm a partner here at MOHARA, and I head up the NOCODE. I've been working in NOCODE for years now, for myself, for clients. And then before that, I was a venture builder. So I was helping individuals and organizations turn their concepts into ideas. And I got into NOCODE because whilst doing all this venture building, it became pretty clear that NOCODE was the most efficient way to build. So sort of specialized in that, and excited to show you all what I got planned.
Great. Thanks, Tom. Okay, so on to the why. So we've got a firm believer that people within the startup ecosystem need to help to build the best tech companies by empowering you guys and or entrepreneurs, who what we term as the pioneers. People that are willing to go and build a company, willing to actually forge their own journey, we believe is a pretty pioneering exercise. So we're here to be able to kind of support you in that journey, because we want to help build the best tech companies we possibly can. We do feel that every good idea should have a chance to shine. I think in the past, certainly before creator tools like NOCODE came along, it was very difficult for non-technical founders to build tech products. And that meant a lot of good ideas with a lot of good people left on the shelf. I mean, even the founder of Deliveroo took 18 months to find his technical co-founder, because he couldn't build it himself, and that was 2012. So it wasn't too recent history that it was very challenging to actually build your good idea. We think that non-technical founders have got fantastic potential, and it's been historically restricted. Like I said about the Deliveroo example, and we care a lot about that. And we honestly feel there's a better way to build early stage tech companies. You know, the movement towards no code and piloting and efficient validation is a step in the right direction, but we still think there's a long way to go with how these businesses are funded, how you build teams, how you do level appropriateness, how you get fractional resources in to really kind of push a business forward. So that's the reason we're here. We are also obviously looking for opportunities, founders that we could potentially partner with, but really it's about, can we help you along your journey at this stage? Okay, so a bit of background. So a lot of the information I'm going to be talking through on the validation piece is coming from a partner that we've worked with for probably 2 to 3 years now. And they, as far as I feel and MOHARA feels, they offer the most succinct and focused way to validate a product. Now, the business is called Who's Fabio, and it was founded by a guy called JP Lucetti, an Argentinian guy, and Darren Ball. Now, JP and Darren are fantastic people, fantastic human beings at a very base level, but they've been in this startup game for about as long as I have, but approached it very much from a validation and piloting stage, so a bit earlier in the food chain than where MOHARA is currently sit. And I just found that their process was the most effective. It runs for about 3 months through what they call a recipe. And what I'm talking to you today and what I'm taking to you today is what we do with our companies. So essentially at the very early pre-Tom pilot stage, when we're looking at validation, we're leveraging their kind of curriculum and their kind of approach because it's the best that we've seen. And we've done all sorts across the year, as you can imagine. You know, when you've worked with over 100, you've seen a lot of validation processes. And I think what they do is the best because it's about simplifying, it's about focusing. So I just want to take you through that, take you through the journey of what we're doing and the gateways of what it is. There's only so much I can cover in like a 20 to 25 minute piece. So I've put a link down the bottom in resources, which will be a downloadable book. You can get hold of that book and it goes into great detail of what I've actually just covering here. And I would recommend anybody to go and to get hold of that and just flick through. It's only 150 pages, well worth having a look through. So the recipe, the Who's Fabio kind of a validation recipe, is based around 3 gateways. And it's very, very straightforward. It's about building a wait list of people who are eager to use your product. That may seem like common sense to you, but it's a very important thing that is often overlooked, surprisingly. Building out a master plan. The master plan is about shaping the story for what this means to people outside of your company, be that potential key stakeholders, so employees that you may have, be that investors, or be that actually your target customer. So shaping that master plan. And then obviously pilot, which is what Tom's going to do his large piece on, is like, how can you build a product pilot with robust user retention and test and iterate against that, but do that in the most effective, both from a time perspective and cost perspective way, because you do not now, in the way that we've got these creative tools, need to be loading into a bespoke dev agency, you know, and I'm saying that because I own one, and I don't think we need to be doing that anymore, and that's why we started MOHARA 0 to 1 with Tom. Okay, so the first stage of this, the wait list. So this is key because it indicates that there is a real market need, and that's fairly common sense. But what it also does, which most people don't pick up on, is that it actually proves that you've got the ability to go and acquire it. And I think what some entrepreneurs don't recognize is that when you come in as an investor, you come in as a potential person that's going to become involved in that, you should come in with a mindset that ideas are commonplace. And you know, the amount of times that I've spoken to several founders who have got the same idea across a 2 to 3 year period is multiple. So what we actually look at when we're an investor is, great, there's an idea there, but is this the person that can go and acquire the market? Is this the person that can go and take this idea forward? Why are they the person to go and take it forward? And building a wait list is a very, very simplistic way to understand how you can go and acquire your target market, making sure that you understand and validate at absolute essence that there is even any point in doing this. You know, is there any point in actually finding a market need? And I'm sure you've heard this, you know, many times over, but I think the piece that's missed is you've got to prove yourself as well. You've got to prove yourself to the people that are going to be joining the business and the people that are going to be investing in the business. Okay, so ways that we go about prepping this when we work with JP and Darren is we go deep on the value proposition. This is, again, standard stuff that you will be learning across what you're doing with Rauma and what you're doing with inside of INSEAD. But this is our own flavor of how we do it. So looking at doing the value prop, that's an SMS pitch. See that as a slightly altered version of an elevator pitch, but really, you know, ask you to kind of get it with inside of a short amount of space in terms of characters. And then looking at who you are going for, the outcome, the struggle, and then the secret sauce. I've got a slide on the next page just to go into those a little bit. And it's about testing and iterating. And the beauty of testing and iterating, even at this stage, is you're not spending any money, you're not spending any time. All you're doing is validating that there is a market need for what you want, and it will not be the first thing you go to market with. You know, you've got to get out of that echo chamber, if you will, or that vacuum of what you think is the, you know, you and your friends and everybody else think are quite right, and test and iterate that SMS pitch with people until you get a marker like 90% of people going, yes, this is interesting to me. Once you get to that point, then it's getting up a landing page, getting up something that's really simple. And again, with no code tools, I've got a slide on this later. That's very simple. You just need to get up a tool that talks to your positioning, talks to your value prop, and then collects information that people are interested in it. And then it's about understanding traffic. To get those first 500 users onto that waiting list and start to nurture it. So don't ever see, oh, I've made a 500, let's leave them. You've got to be in with them every week, every 2 weeks, talking to them, understanding them, gleaning information about what they're up to, what the product could be interesting for them. So building a waitlist is the first gateway. Value prop, test and iterate that value prop, get that landing page done quick and easy, start to understand your users, start to build that waitlist to a certain volume of numbers. Okay, so on the value prop, so as I said, this is a leave behind doc, so I'm going to go across this, but the SMS pitch, 160 characters, you know, it's your standard tweet, making sure that you simplify and focus exactly what it is. Who is your super user? Again, simplify and focus to a small set of user needs. It's, you don't, you know, the whole boiling the ocean piece, you know, really dialing it back. When I used to give seminars on MVPs 5 or 6 years ago, it was always about 3 features. Do not be building more than 3 features when you go to market, because you don't know, it's a waste of time and money. And it means you haven't done the exercise of really drilling down into it. So, you know, think about describing that person, like I said, who's, you know, unlike me, has their hair set on fire. That's because I can't grow it. But who has their hair set on fire, and what are the common characteristics of those people that are really struggling? Without an outcome, you can't design a solution. So what's the purpose of your product? To help them get something done. You know, that's what it ultimately is. The product is to help them get something done that they cannot do, or to help them get that done in a more efficient way. So can you articulate that within inside of your business case? The struggle is an interesting one. And this kind of came from a theory, weirdly, from World War II, in that when analysts used to look at damaged bombers when they came back, they used to say, okay, we need to strengthen in the areas where these planes have been shot. But actually, what you really needed to do was analyze where those planes that didn't come home had been shot. So they actually strengthened the areas where there wasn't any damage on the planes, because they were then termed to be the things that would brought that plane down. So this is a thing, like, most people talk to customers that are struggling. What you've got to try and do is find the people who aren't struggling as well. They may be doing something manual, or they may be taking a problem forward. They may not have the issue they've got, but try and understand what it is that they're doing, so that then you can create the problem, or evolve what they've got and potentially make it more efficient. So don't just talk to the people who are struggling, talk to the people who've already mastered it. I think that's a key thing. And obviously, you may have heard of a secret sauce. You know, what's the set of features that's going to turn that struggler into a master? What are the key things, the key game changers for them? So on to the SMS pitch. So this is a high-level pitch that summarizes who your customers are, what outcome you're helping them achieve, and also your secret sauce. So the secret sauce is a succinct description of each key feature, so that the people understand exactly what the product does for them, and it's got to be about for them, how you're going to change them from a struggler through to a master. This is a bit of a pet peeve of mine, but fluffy buzzwords, cut them out. just layman's. Just talk directly to what it is that you're actually going to be doing. Don't confuse people with words that are unnecessary or terminology that's unnecessary. The amount of pitches that I see and say, our AI mechanism is going to supercharge X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, right, one, what on earth is an AI mechanism? And two, what does supercharge me? You know, so cut out all of that noise and just try to be as succinct as possible. And describe your model, you know, who you charge, what you charge, and how much you charge. Very, very basic kind of business school stuff. So SMS pitch. And then this piece, so building a website, Wix, Squarespace, anything else like that. You would have heard them 10 a penny. They're really, really easy to put together. You need a little bit of a designing eye, but most of it's drag and drop. So you get your value prop positioned, you get your SMS pitch ready to be able to talk to people and do that outreach, get your value prop positioned, get yourself a Wix site set up, and then attach the tool like Typeform. And Typeform will allow you to collect email addresses, information, bring that into a Google spreadsheet, and then that becomes your email campaign that you can go and talk to your customers about. So really, it's easily done within 3 to 5 days, you know, with your proper head down, thinking about what you want to do on your time. Think about value proposition, think about your SMS pitch, think about how to get your value prop out there on a website, and then start to collect email addresses, talk to people, talk to the strugglers, talk to the masters, understand exactly what this product could be, test and iterate until this value prop listed on your Wix website is absolutely flying and, you know, you're collecting a couple of hundred people a week. Okay, just onto the master plan then. So this gateway is about getting investors. I've talked to investors here, but it's also about stakeholders. If you're seeking a co-founder, if you're seeking a team to come and join you, obviously you need to raise capital to be able to build a business unless you're self-funding. But this is about getting people excited about the now, the next, and the future. And I'm going to reference a widely publicized master plan, which is lovely old Elon's. So this was the Tesla master plan, where obviously his vision was about sunsetting fossil fuels and replacing it with sustainable electric vehicles. But he didn't go there with that. You know, I mean, you've got to also think about what he's doing with his batteries. He's probably going to end up being, Tesla's probably going to end up being one of the significant players in the energy space, because he's going to have so much, you know, so many gigafactories around the world, and that's part of his vision as well. But that's all well and good, and it's great to go and sell that vision to your investors, key stakeholders. But actually, you've got to make it practical. So thinking about now, next, and future, and then delivering against those different stages is super important. And, you know, like the Tesla plan, it's to sunset fossil fuels, but you know, he wanted to offer an electric car that was rapid enough to be able to take on Ferrari. And Elon's, one thing he is obviously very good at, love him or hate him, is making a noise and bringing attention. And when he released that Tesla Roadster in 2008, it went 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds. He did what he needed to do. He had a terrible, terrible range, but that was his next problem. The next problem was sorting out the range afterwards. What he did, he made a splash and made people change the perception that electric cars weren't these, you know, hobbyist things built in a garage. This was a serious piece of performance kit, even if it only went 80 miles. So think about the now, next, and the future. So a little bit on writing this. I've often seen founders and spoken to founders when they've kind of come with their master plan. It's been a little bit of a brick wall for them and very, very challenging. So, you know, think big, but start small. As I was saying, key to succeeding is proving that you can make progress. And that goes back to the point that if you can prove you can do a waitlist, you become attractive to people. Prove that you can hit your now state. Prove that you can hit that stage, then you go on to the next afterwards. So think big for sure, but definitely start small. You've got to give your vision credibility. Saying that you want to be the world's biggest automator can sound out of touch and deluded, but if you've actually got the plan to go and do it and then tell the story of how you're going to do it, you're going to be in such a great position to attract people to your business, particularly if you can prove that you've got the wait list and you've got that elements of traction. Expectations with stakeholders. This is a key thing, and I know this having, you know, grown our business to over 100 people. If you don't consider your stakeholders in your organization, you don't make sure that you're aligned behind a North Star, things unravel pretty quickly. And this will also happen with any partners that you're wanting to work with outside of your organization. So do make sure that you're aligning with people each stage. Keep the focus. That is a fairly repetitive term for me today, but keep the execution focus on what is needed now. Stay in that now category until you're ready to progress to the next. Prove that you've done that, get the investors seeing you've done that, get your stakeholders doing that, and make sure you focus on what you need to do now. And be sure, again, you know, show the investors that you're making that progress. You've got the waitlist, you've got the plan, you've shown them that you can do elements of the now, and then you can take that step forward, and which is obviously the pilot phase. So very, very high level, quick walkthrough. I could talk about this stuff for 3 hours, but I think, you know, it's very good for me to, you know, to share across the book that you can go and download and you can dive in. Key message though, it's about becoming simple. It's about becoming focused. It's about working on the wait list, working on your value prop. Make sure you get that out there, test, iterate, get the wait list going, get the website up. Before you do anything else, do not spend a dime on anything else until you get that done. Don't skip forward to a pilot because you're assuming that you've got a market. Get it proven. Get it proven in a tangible way that then you can also go to an investor. During our waitlist period, or during our waitlist gate, we spoke to 250 customers and 175 of them on our waitlist, and we're communicating regularly with them. They are potential converting customers, which obviously then comes to, when you get through this stage, then it's going to go over to pilot, which is what Tom is going to talk to. So this is going to be very much about what tools you can use to build your pilot out. Obviously, every single use case is different. What your problem is, what you're trying to solve, what you've boiled down to your key features changes with every single business. But the tools that are now out there in the creator market give a tremendous amount of power and flexibility to what you can do. So I'm just going to switch decks unless there's any questions on any of that before we kind of just go through that stage. No worries if there's not. Okay.
May I ask a question before we get to the next one?
Sure.
Thank you for that. And actually, the timing of this is just perfect. And it's almost as though I orchestrated it in that way. In P3, most of the teams were out there in clearly being able to define the problem.
Yeah.
So now this is the next phase of that. Now we understand exactly what problem we are trying to solve. And now we're going to test the market out. So and I do have a number of our teams, including myself, who's walking on our own entrepreneurial journey, where we have marketplaces. So that is essentially, you know, two sides.
Yep.
Marketplace offering, do you build the wait list on both sides, or do you focus on the demand side as opposed to the supply side, or vice versa?
Yeah, I mean, marketplaces and that liquidity on both sides of it is an interesting challenge. I should give you the book that Ben wrote. I'll send that around because Ben did a marketplace for 5 years. That was his business out of INSEAD. Tremendous amount of learnings on what to do around the liquidity issue. So I'll make sure that gets distributed. I mean, I think you've got to do both, is my personal takeaway. I would start with the demand side because I think you will have an understanding if there is the supply side. I think the supply side is easier to spot than the demand side. So I would start with the demand side first. You know, that may be, I don't know, a marketplace around car wheels or whatever it is. You know, you need to make sure that the car wheel sector is not already served by, you know, a multitude of different vendors. And do they really care about what that marketplace is going to solve? So I would start with the demand side. And once I've validated that, I would be talking to the supply side and understand whether there's a problem for them, because there's got to be a reason, right? There's got to be a so what as to why they're going to bother to manage another outlet for their commerce if it's in that place. So I think demand side first and then supply side after that, because I think you can identify supply a bit easier.
Great, thank you. And I have another question, but before I hog the space, does anybody have any questions? And you're all welcome to ask questions, by the way. Anybody, I know we have some guests as well. If anybody has a question, go just unmute yourself and ask a question.
I think someone popped in then.
Yeah, that's me. Can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Hey, thank you both for sharing that. Really, really useful to hear. My name's Pratna. I am looking to build something in personalized healthcare. And okay. I guess, as you said, there's no dearth of ideas in that space. What I'm wondering is, in order to actually build towards a pilot and try and come up with some sort of proof of concept in the personalization space, what would be kind of the 2 or 3 key metrics that you think someone would want to see in that space?
Do you mean as a user or as a potential investor or stakeholder?
Oh, as a potential investor.
I would say waiting.
Right.
Sorry, Tom. I'd say waiting list. Waiting list every time. When an investor sees that you've got these people that are signed up and interested, then they're interested. So always a waiting list. That's the top one.
Yeah, and I think I'd be interested from the value prop SMS kind of pitch research that you're doing, the conversation having. I think there's probably some qualitative information there about why your potential offering hits the spot. Because there may be a set number of features inside of healthcare, personalized healthcare, that might really be the crucial bit that is actually going to be the step change. Because often you might go to, let's imagine it's a healthcare insurance product. It might be the fact that it is, within inside a certain region of the US, or it might be the fact that it's to do with a certain type of customer or a certain type of policy. So I think there's a level of qualitative detail that if you could derive metrics from that in addition to a waitlist to give that a bit of favor, because I always ask, well, what is the main reason these people are looking at this for? Why have they signed up? What are they waiting for? And I like that played back. And I like that played back, not just because they want the product, or why do they want the product? So there is a level of depth to it. So I agree with Tom completely. The waitlist is the reason we push people this waitlist thing, is because that demonstrates you've acquired a need. It demonstrates, or a market. It demonstrates there is a need. But I think the quality of information when you have the conversation, you're talking to people, is also why. I think. Does that help?
Thank you. Yeah, that helps. Thanks.
Okay.
Great. Anybody else with a great? Thank you. Anyone else with a question? I'll just ask 2 questions, and I think we have time, Tom. I'm not eating too much of your time there. Am I, Tom? Or...
No, I think we're good.
Okay.
Breaks it up nice.
So when you call it an SMS pitch,
the
reason you call it SMS is to say it's a short pitch. Does it mean that you'll be actually SMSing your pitch?
No. So it's a bit of branding on it. Let's be honest. It's so rather than saying it's 160 characters, you could call it a tweet pitch. It's an evolution of the elevator pitch is you're meant to be able to deliver that in 30 seconds while you're between floors. This is you've got to be able to simplify and focus your value prop to 160 characters, and it's that boundary that really drives that focus. So that's why it's called an SMS pitch. It could be called the 150 pitch, could be called the 200 character pitch, but it's called SMS because it's about the right size.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah.
And
but it is, to be honest with you, it's a little bit of branding.
Yeah. And one last question from me, and anybody else, if you want have any questions, feel free to ask. The product we are building, Richard, and I think I've touched on it, is essentially parents sending kids over to another country and linking parents directly with host families.
Right.
So, that's like, and generally the demand is around this time, and they're going to be sending the kids, for example, in a couple of months' time at the summertime, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you can't mess them around with a waiting list. I don't know if I'm getting my message across correctly, because they literally want to send the kids over. So for those people, you can't just say, okay, we'll have a product, after the summer. It's too late, and they could have gone with somebody else. Do you ever come across that issue where, you know, waiting list is too long to wait?
I mean, yeah, I mean, cyclical businesses or seasonal businesses, for sure. If you haven't got the time to get your product out, run it manually, is what I would do. If you've got a window and you've got a proof that the waitlist has generated the information that, okay, these people are interested in it, but we've got to get this out in 3 months, and you don't feel you can get the pilot out and pushed and operating with inside that period, I would be running it manually. I'd be thinking, you know, I'm going to be on the phone. I've got spreadsheets. I've got everything I need to know that I can then plug into that product. So I would treat that a little bit like a travel agency until if you've got that super tight window, you can't get your tech product out. Don't lose them as customers. Adapt. You know, that's how I would treat it. And then I'd be looking at the next cycle, saying, okay, what did we learn from the process of how getting this stuff booked or getting these people paired up? And let's go and digitize that. Let's go and make that scalable. And then we can use the no code to be able to pair those people together. So if you're really crushed on time and you can't get the tech out, yeah, I mean, you've got to do it manually. You've got to go old school.
So just to add to that, when we talk about a waiting list, it's more of a register interest. So then when you're looking to build something, you know that, say, 500 people sign up to the waiting list, 500 people want this. Great. Now we know that this is actually something that's got legs. Then we can go on to the next stage, which is let's think about building it. So it's just about registering interest mainly. That's what you want a waiting list for. Because if you've got an investor, for example, and they see you've got 500 people ready and waiting to buy this thing, then you're in a much stronger position. And also, you know that when you build it, you're not wasting your time. So that's probably the best way to look at waiting lists, just registering interest.
Yeah. Great. Thank you. Thanks for that.